my pleasure to introduce our first speakers this morning, Reuben and Leah Myles. Actually, they're from Fredericton. At least Reuben grew up here. Leah's from Ontario originally. All of our speakers' bios are on the website, so you can check that out if you haven't already. And Reuben and Leah are serving at Faith Academy in the Philippines. And they shared with us last year on this virtual prayer conference we had just before going to the Philippines. And now actually they're on their way home just for a summer break. They'll be going back to Faith for another year, maybe 2 years, who knows. But anyhow, they're unable to join us live, but they did send us a video.
Hey everybody, I am Reuben Myles, and this is my wife.
I'm Leah Myles.
And we are so excited to be here sharing with you guys again. We were with you last year. Last year we were in a very different situation where we were back in Canada. I think we were in New Brunswick or maybe Ontario, and we were recording just like this to send to you all, and we were in the final stages of finally getting to the Philippines. We were working and trusting and raising for over a year. Trying to get here, and then right shortly after we sent the video in, we finally did. So now we have a lot to catch up on. It feels like we got a lot to share, a lot of stuff that's happened, as you might imagine, and we're really excited to go over that with you all today.
And for those that are joining us for the first time, maybe this is the first time you are at the HFA conference, we want to say hello. We are Reuben and Leah Myles. We work as missionaries in the Philippines, primarily with third culture kids at Faith Academy. Faith Academy is a school that has about 33 countries represented through our kids. Before COVID, there was about 500 students, and that number is starting to rise again. We're in, I think, about the 350s, the 400s of students, but our roles, as we'll get into, look a little different of how we minister to those kids. When we last talked with you guys, we were actually in the air heading here to be at Faith Academy in person for the first time, which was very exciting. When we last talked to you guys in June of last year, we were saying how our positions here would be ministry coordinator as well as ELL, so that's English language learning for middle schoolers. That's what I was assigned to do when we had left. And for you?
And my position was going to be, I was at that time middle school chaplain and the high school chaplain. And for me, well actually both of us, that has changed a bit since then, since we last talked to you. For me now, that shifted, that pivoted into being middle school chaplain and also teaching grade 8 Bible. And that was and still is an interesting journey for me, as I'm not a teacher by trade, but it's something that God has really used as a growing and learning experience for me a lot. So but I'll talk about that more later. But for Leah also.
Yeah, so for the first semester we were in person from August to December. I was the ELL kind of coordinator, supervisor for middle schoolers. I taught grade 7 and 8 English language to primarily Chinese and Korean kids who are coming in, and you have to maintain a certain level of English proficiency to be able to stay at our school, because there are so many different countries represented. We all kind of united under English at the school because a lot of countries everyone comes from, English is the second language learned in schools prior to. That's what I was doing. But that did change second semester. So just a few months ago, what would be 4 months ago, my role changed. I dropped the ELL portion so that I could fully invest in the ministry coordinator position. And for you?
Yeah, and so for me, as I said, I went into doing grade 8 Bible, which was a really, really cool experience. Thankfully, I didn't have to do it alone. I had a lot of help preparing stuff and going forward in that. And I have a lot of really awesome students that I absolutely love being with and connecting with. And at the same time have been still doing all of the online chapels for middle schoolers, preaching still to a phone digitally like this, what we're doing right now, kind of. But thankfully, we are able to now have students in person. Our first semester there at the school, that was not how it was. Our first semester, when we got there, landed in the country, it was all still online. We were still we didn't know when it would be in person, but for that whole semester, it ended up being all online, and I was teaching the students fully digitally, and so was Leah. But thankfully, once we came into this second semester, we were able to do what we call our blended learning model, where we have some students online and some students in person, where we have some students who are in other countries and can't be in the Philippines because of COVID reasons and whatnot, and other ones who are here and able to come to school. So we were able to kind of do both. And that has been another interesting experience for sure, but it has still been quite amazing, and we are hoping and expecting that next year that is going to be fully in person, and we can throw away all of the Zoom meetings, throw away all the Google Meets, and then we can fully be together with each other, which we're so excited about, and it's really, really cool.
Yeah, and through all these different transitions, every 2 to 3 weeks, the government decides, are we loosening a little, or are we tightening again? For our country, for our situation that we're in right now, it is drastically different than New Brunswick. New Brunswick would close down over 3 cases. Here we have tens of thousands a day. That fluctuates according to the time of year. There's a time of year where a lot of Faith Academy people had COVID. But in those loosening times, we were able to work a lot more. As ministry coordinator, I was able to start something called The Well, which is our high school youth group. 3 weeks of geographically placed discipleship groups, and then 1 week that is a rally where all the kids come together and we have almost like a mini conference for an evening with the students, as well as we've been able to have ministry trips with the students and just more opportunities. We're very excited at the prospect of that being something that is happening next year. We're not sure what levels look like right now, as the government leader just changed again, and some of the loosening of rules. We have the exemption to be able to be in person as Faith Academy because of the person that was in government. Now that that has changed, we don't know what that looks like next year, but we are moving forward as if we are able to be ministry coordinator and stay on with chaplaincy.
So prayers that can continue for sure be a huge blessing. We have been very, very fortunate that we have not had any really major outbreaks at the school. There have been some times when people got sick and we all had to quarantine, but there's been no serious cases of COVID that have really put anybody in really rough shape. So that's definitely a praise note there, and prayer that would continue and that we can continue to stay in person and move forward with what's possible. So that would be really, really great. But yeah, as Leah was talking about a little bit, that she has had the opportunity to organize some discipleship groups, which has been a really, really awesome opportunity that I have partaken in, that I've been a leader for a group, and that has been a really, really great opportunity of pouring into students. And we have the really, really great problem to have, which is that our group is too big. That the group I'm in is too big, where we have, I think, something like 13 boys all in one small living room that we're meeting in, and there's 3 of us leaders there. It might even be more than that. Boys are there. There's hardly enough room to sit on couches and in chairs, and all these guys are just so excited to be here and to hear about what God wants to say in their lives and to be with each other. And they were all so ready to receive this. They're all so ready after so much quarantine, after so much COVID, to come back and really be diving back into their faith again. So that's been really, really encouraging to see. And I also, on top of having a high school group, there is a middle school version of that, which is called FAT groups, which is a PHAT. It stands for Pursuing Holiness and Truth. And I have a bunch of grade 6 boys. So a really interesting age group to have for a discipleship group. I had them last year fully online, and they were very uninterested. They were only sometimes showing up, really only there to play games with each other online, not talking a whole lot. But then now, once we were able to go in person, my group is again too big, and there's too many of them, and all I have is me and one other leader, and it's not enough, and we struggle to have enough of us there. But it's such a great, encouraging problem to have. And the responses and engagement that I see from these middle schoolers, these grade 6ers, shocks me every time. I'm always so floored at the profound thoughts and reflections they have on their faith, and I've come to realize that I underestimated the grade 6 age so much, and I'm so encouraged by how God's moving in their hearts and I see so many of them, like, they're always like, I'm so excited for FAT today. And I'm like, I would never be excited for this when I was in grade 6. I was never that engaged in my faith or what God wanted to do when I was their age. That's so cool to see, and I'm so lucky to be able to be with them. Of course, there's times when they get a bit rowdy, as kind of comes with it, but that's okay. That's kind of part of the whole thing. So that's been a really, really cool thing that's been happening lately. And I know there's been a lot of other stuff that Leah's really excited to share about her position that she's been able to do too, and I'll let her do that.
Speaking of things being big and going well, everything to do with this ministry coordinator position is really new. The last time I had this position was in, like, one of our teachers, she was in middle school the last time we did anything to do with ministry. So it's very cool to see these things being perceived well and see it being very clear that God has called us here to fulfill this purpose for Faith Academy at this time. But going back to our spring ministry trip, this trip was for high school students. It's only on our island. We kept it quite local, but our island is 8 hours stretched top to bottom, where we will link a video at the end explaining kind of what the trip looked like, where you will see that we had about 40 kids join us for the trip. We actually had to cut off a waiting list. We couldn't let everyone come that wanted to come because of vans and leaders and everything in regards to that. But you'll see the experiences they got to have on the trip and how fruitful it was, and the process was quite quick. We actually had plans for another island, and then in a matter of about 3.5 weeks, we had to completely drop that plan and change it to just our island, which was very intense, but it went very well. And according to government guidelines, next year we hope to be able to do this trip twice in the first semester and once more internationally in one of the other islands in the Philippines or in another location in Asia in general, which is very exciting, and that will be my priority for my position next year.
And yeah, and you were like only expecting how many students originally?
About 8 of them.
Yeah, expected 8, got 41. Is that the
No,
number? What was the number?
37 kids, 5 leaders.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So crazy.
Yes.
Absolutely wild. And yeah, and I was also on the trip leading it, and it was surreal. It was actually a really, really cool experience because for me, coming here, part of like my dream coming here was that I wanted to make some kind of a program for high schoolers that would involve them being able to go out and do ministry on a semi-regular basis and to learn different skills and figure out what kind of ministry they enjoy doing and kind of seek kind of discerning calling through that, because that's the experience I got when I went to university. I wanted to create something like that for high school here, and this trip kind of revived that dream in me, because I had kind of just gone into survival mode coming here, just trying to figure out how to live here, figure out how to survive, figure out how to get used to the culture and get used to being a teacher, that I completely forgot about all of that. And then when Leah suggested like this whole trip thing and said, would you want to be a leader on it? I was like, I don't know, like giving it, because I'd be giving up my entire break, like my entire week-long break to go on this trip. And I was thinking, I'll be so tired after it. I don't know if I want to do this. And I said, I don't know, maybe. And then about like a few days later, God just kind of was like, you know, Reuben, what the heck? Like, do you remember what you came here to do? This is exactly why you came here, was to be on trips like this. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. Like, it was just kind of like the eye covering was lifted, and I just realized, what am I doing? Of course I want to come. And it was an amazing experience, and I was so happy to be there. Leah won't believe it, but she did such an amazing job all the time with it, and I don't think anybody else at this school could have run it like she did. She did such a crazy, amazing job. I was so proud of her. And all the students had such an amazing time. Over and over again, I was just seeing students absolutely loving it, and even like doing things like hard labor or like working with like these crazy kids all the time. They were still loving it. The attitudes they had was just so amazing. It was such an amazing God thing. Anyway, I'll shut up now and talk about it, because I wanted to praise it if she wasn't willing to praise herself for it. But yeah, and so that was such an amazing experience. And yeah, I'll be linking the video that I put together about it at the end.
We'll play it at the end.
Yeah, I'll play it at the end. And just a reminder to not share or take pictures of it anywhere. We have to kind of have it on a little bit of a closed, like only by request you can watch it, because there's a lot of kids involved in that we did ministry with that are on the video that need to have their security protected and cannot have things shared about them. So that would be really, really appreciated if you don't share that, unless without asking first. We can get permission to share it, but ask first. Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that.
Yeah, and if you share it, you wouldn't be given permission to share it on any social medias. It would just be to email it to friends.
Yeah. So these have kind of been some of our highlights of the ministry trip and leading these discipleship groups and stuff. We have some other highlights of being here. Another thing that's been really, really cool that I got to do, I literally just came back from yesterday, was we had a grade 8 retreat, which was kind of this thing that they weren't able to have for 2 years because of COVID, but they finally were able to have this year, where all of my students that I teach for Bible, and also just grade 8s in general, we all went out together on a little one-night retreat at a training hotel center. I don't know what to call it. And it was awesome. We did so much stuff. We were able to have the grade 8s themselves be the worship band there, which was so impressive. And we had some of the grade 8s share themselves and talk in front of their whole class about things about like what God's been doing in their life. And I had the opportunity to talk and share my testimony there, which is really amazing. And we had such a powerful time at the end where we had all of the students have a time of encouragement for one another, and also a time of reconciliation with one another for any kind of conflict they may have had with one another and other problems. And there was many crying 8th graders there, which was a very, very good thing to have them kind of reconcile relationships and grow closer to one another. And it was a very, very powerful time that I was very blessed to be part of. I even had a few tears come down, maybe more than a few, but it was a really, really cool experience. And there's things like that have been really, really awesome. So, yeah, and we were...
We can just move into prayer and praise. This clip is 10 minutes, the other one's 15 minutes.
Yeah, there's a lot of one cutting it up, yeah. Okay, yeah, all right. So yeah, and moving on into prayer and praise points. Prayer, so next year...
You've been talking for a long time.
Oh, sure. I just didn't know how much you wanted to talk.
I know, but it looks way worse when I'm just staring at you the whole time. Like,
sure. Yeah, well, just say what you want to say.
Moving on, we're going to talk about some prayer and praise points for you guys to utilize in your next, I think it's 20-30 minutes of this conference section. So we would love prayer for our summer. By the time you guys see this, we had to record it again because we once again are traveling. We will be heading towards Canada once again for the summer for some personal reasons. We have some family members we would really like to see in this season before our furlough in a few years from now. So safety in travel, finances, feeling secure throughout travel. As COVID travel, there's a lot of unexpected tests you have to take and things that come up, as well as provisions and being able to see everybody that we feel we really want to be able to see in this season and at this time over the summer break. That is a huge prayer request of ours. And also re-entering the country again. We both have long-term visas, but you never really know with the changing government what that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. That we able to make the most of our time, and that we can remind ourselves that it is our break, that this is our summer break, our time of rest, and that we don't burn ourselves out while we're home, and that we can come back feeling rejuvenated and excited to come back here. It has been a fear of ours that when we get home we won't want to come back. Like, that's kind of something we're scared about. We'll get all comfortable again in Canada, and we don't want that. I mean, obviously we want to enjoy ourselves, but we really pray that God would give us the strong desire to return to what we are doing here. It's our first time going home, so it's going to be interesting, and we're looking forward to it all the time. And then another. Sorry?
Clarity for your next year, because you don't know what you're going to be doing.
Well, I kind of know. Anyway. And then another prayer point for me, next year I will be teaching a different Bible class. I'll be teaching grade 6s next year, which is going to be a new experience. I pray that I can figure that out well and that can go well, and that I continue to have the patience for that age group, and that things can continue to thrive there, and that I can hone my craft more as a teacher, which is again something that I am not at all experienced or educated in myself, but that I can continue to better myself in that would be very much appreciated. And then finally, also to be transparent about the things we've been struggling with here. The first thing that's been kind of a struggle has been language learning. It's been something that we it hasn't been going negatively, but it has been hard, and it has been something that we want to advance more in, that we've been struggling to find the time and motivation with when we are so busy with school already.
Well, also the first semester when we were all completely online, we didn't have access to the things that help you advance in language very quickly. So we still had our 2 hours or 4 hours a week of lessons, but we didn't have access to locals that we could actually practice and utilize the language with. And we still really don't. That's something that we're just starting to be able to do as the country begins to open up. But language, it will go so slowly if we don't have the ability to interact with locals and more diverse language needs. We have Filipino neighbors, we see Filipinos and interact with Filipinos every day, but it's different when you're trying to work on a certain language concept. So the ability for us to strive forward in that, to be ambitious in that, but also that we can find a way to have a proper sacred time to do that more than just 2 to 4 hours a week.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And then we always need more encouragement on, more motivation for sure. And then second thing, which is something that has probably been the biggest hurdle, the biggest challenge for us being here, has been feeling isolated, I think. I know this is not a surprising thing, most likely. I think everybody's been feeling this the past 2 years, but it's been hard for us as we're people who we're young and we're coming right out of university where we're used to having all these close friends everywhere you look, to being here and struggling to have that similar kind of friendship and relationship. I cannot say enough good things. I may want to make this clear about all the amazing people we've met here, but it has been really challenging to make those close friendships, those close relationships that our hearts have been desiring, the people that we can really be fully honest with and who are honest with us, people we want to see and who want to see us. That has been something that we are still looking for and praying for. And we've never been used to it taking this long for that to happen. And we know that everybody we talk to about this says, yes, it is hard and it takes a long time. That doesn't make it any easier. So a lot of prayer for that would definitely be very, very appreciated.
And COVID in general makes that take a lot longer. We've been quarantined 5 times since we've gotten here. So we've spent literal months locked in our house since we've gotten here. And many other people know that as well, but it is definitely difficult to deepen relationships when there's such a small window of time of availability between everybody involved. So prayer for that. And the way we experience relationships in university is very different to here. There's no dorm that you walk into and you just see who's available and who wants to go get burgers at midnight or whatever it might be. It's very different when everyone around you has children or is doing something different. So perseverance and praise that we do have some great connections here and there's great people we know, but prayer that God can discern those who we will go deeper with. And for the sake of time, we're starting to really run long here. We'll just go into quick praises as well. Praises that what God has called us here to do is extremely clear and has been extremely successful. We see its sustainability coming up, even in conversations. Reuben was even able to have a conversation with a kid that is within our mission the other day, who said he really valued our relationships with him and us being here in general. So we've had those little encouragements. Those are huge praise notes for us as well. And praises that we have the ability to go to Canada this summer, that we won't be quarantined on that end, and hopefully not quarantined on this end either.
Absolutely, yeah. And there's been many blessings in God being faithful every time, and that we continue to lean into that and trust in that in the seasons when we need to. So, but anyway, it looks like we're coming to the end of the time we have allocated for us. So we just want to say thank you so much for all the time you've given us here and that you've let us come on and share and be honest about the good, the bad, and everything in between. And we really value your prayer that you're going to be giving for us here.
Yeah, and if you want to figure out how to be in contact with us, I'm sure Reuben will put it at the bottom, either our emails or one of our profiles or something, or you could also get that from somebody that is part of organizing HFA, but for now we are running over time. So see you later. Bye.
Bye. See y'all later. Thank you so much.
There you go.
It's everything you ever need, and it's there right in front of you. This is where you wanna be. This is where you wanna
be. We were born to embrace, not accept it. We were given nothing more, so we kept it. As the colors of our boots keep fading, we live a life that we hate without saying. Who would listen to the cries of a poor man? Never done nothing, how can we be something? Every heart has an hour of existence. Every breath brings a chance for redemption. If somehow we could wake up, let us love. Chance on a long shot this time. Are we all just at least worth another try? I'm a king in the land of abuses, undermined by the promise of excuses. Who's to win if we know that it's not fair? Who would fight when it seems that no one cares? If somehow we could wake up, let us love. Love, like we were children, make us feel like we're still living in a world